Greetings, explorers of the shadows and seekers of hidden truth. Welcome to the portal of the unknown, a sanctuary for unraveling the mysteries of the ancient world and the dark prophecies that whisper secrets about humanity's fate. Together, we delve into the labyrinths of forgotten wisdom, exposing the forces that move unseen through the corridors of time. Today, we embark on a compelling journey into the intersection of the Book of Jubilees and the Sibylline oracles, two profound texts that illuminate the unseen battle between celestial forces and humanity's destiny. In the Book of Jubilees, time itself is portrayed as cyclical, a divine rhythm where past, present, and future are intricately connected. Within this framework, angels and demons play pivotal roles in shaping human history. This ancient text provides an expansive exploration of the fallen angels, mentioned briefly in Genesis 6:4, the sons of God who descended to earth and corrupted humanity. These angels, seduced by earthly desires, became the progenitors of the Nephilim, a race of giants whose influence plunged the world into chaos. Their rebellion extended beyond physical destruction. They introduced forbidden knowledge, arcane practices like astrology, sorcery, and weaponry that fractured humanity's connection with the Creator. The Book of Jubilees expands on this narrative, revealing how these fallen beings manipulated humanity, sowing seeds of corruption that spanned generations. Their influence wasn't confined to acts of rebellion, but seeped into the very fabric of human civilization. By defying divine order, these entities became architects of cosmic disarray, requiring a divine reckoning. This text emphasizes the enduring consequences of their actions, setting the stage for a final judgment where God's justice will restore harmony and cleanse creation of their defilement. The Sibylline oracles, however, take us further into the apocalyptic tapestry, offering poetic and prophetic visions of the world's end. These texts vividly depict the climactic battle between celestial and demonic forces, illustrating humanity's pivotal role in this cosmic confrontation. Divine fire, a recurring symbol, represents God's ultimate purification, an unstoppable force that eradicates evil while offering salvation to the righteous. Like the Book of Jubilees, the oracles highlight the tension between destruction and renewal, painting a vivid portrait of the spiritual struggle shaping humanity's ultimate destiny. Both the Book of Jubilees and the Sibylline oracles share a profound message. The fate of humanity hinges on the eternal clash between divine order and chaos. The fallen angels of the Book of Enoch are emblematic of moral decay, while the Sibylline oracles depict humanity caught in the throes of apocalyptic transformation. These narratives compel us to reflect on our role in this spiritual drama, challenging us to choose between the forces of light and darkness. Through these ancient texts, we uncover not just the story of cosmic battles, but a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest spiritual struggles. They invite us to confront the unseen forces influencing our lives and remind us that even in the darkest hour, redemption and hope remain within reach for those who align themselves with divine truth. As we traverse these ancient prophecies, we unravel profound insights into the spiritual warfare shaping the collective destiny of humankind. In the Sibylline oracles, apocalyptic visions provide a chilling portrayal of the role demons play in the destruction of the world. These dark entities are depicted as active agents in the collapse of divine order, corrupting both human hearts and creation itself. The final destruction is not only seen as the end of the physical world, but as a process of moral and spiritual decay, where demons, agents of chaos, work to divert humanity from its original purpose. These demonic forces do not act in isolation, but rather within the cycles of time that God has established for the universe. They operate within the boundaries that have been set by divine sovereignty, revealing a cosmic battle between good and evil that transcends human actions and is tied to a larger divine plan. The Sibylline oracles warn us, much like other apocalyptic texts, that the destruction is not random or disordered, but is part of a larger framework where the forces of evil are contained and their power limited by God's will. This apocalyptic vision in the Sibylline oracles echoes the themes found in the Book of Jubilees, where celestial and demonic forces intertwine within the grand narrative of human destiny. In the Book of Jubilees, the cycle of history is often interrupted by the actions of these supernatural entities. However, God's sovereignty remains unchallenged, and just as in the Sibylline oracles, we see that the power of these beings, although significant, is always subject to divine control. This control is reflected in biblical passages such as Daniel 7:10, which gives us a profound view of the celestial tribunal. The verse states, "Thousands upon thousands attended him. 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened." This celestial tribunal represents God's sovereignty over the cosmic fate, where every action, whether of angels or demons, will be judged according to divine justice. The tribunal Daniel describes is a space where the forces of good and evil come face to face, and where the records of all creation are opened and evaluated. It reveals that despite the demons' attempts to corrupt humanity and destabilize divine order, God's justice will ultimately prevail, and the world's final destiny is secured by divine sovereignty. These opened books in the celestial tribunal are not merely historical records, but rather they represent the divine plan that unfolds over time. Every human action, every movement of good and evil will be evaluated, and each soul will have its destiny determined based on the choices made throughout its journey. The mention of thousands upon thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 standing before God reminds us of the magnitude of the judgment to come, not only for supernatural beings, but for every individual, every soul walking the earth. In contrast to the imminent destruction described in the Sibylline oracles, the celestial tribunal offers a vision of uncompromising justice, where nothing escapes the divine gaze and where evil will be defeated. This divine sovereignty not only emphasizes the importance of the final judgment, but also the spiritual security of those who seek the truth and divine justice. Even in the face of demonic forces that work relentlessly to destroy, there is a promise that, in the end, justice will prevail. The process of destruction is not the end of the story, but rather the necessary purification that will allow the new cycle of peace and harmony to begin. In the end, all the books will be opened, and the final judgment will bring a true separation between good and evil. It is a powerful reminder that, despite temptations and mistakes, God's justice will never fail, and at the right time, all things will be restored to their perfect order. This vision of the celestial tribunal in Daniel offers a vision of hope for those who fight against demonic forces and seek to live according to divine principles. The final judgment will be a moment of purification and redemption for the righteous, while the wicked will face the consequences of their choices. Thus, as we explore the Sibylline oracles and other apocalyptic texts, we are invited to reflect on our own role in the cosmic battle between good and evil, and how our choices may determine our final destiny before this celestial tribunal. The concept of time in the Book of Jubilees is fascinating, as it proposes a cyclical and orderly structure for human history. Instead of a linear narrative that progresses continuously, the Book of Jubilees views history as a series of determined periods called Jubilee cycles, which repeat throughout time. Each Jubilee represents a 49-year period, during which significant events occur, all of which are part of a larger divine plan orchestrated by God. Thus, time is not something that happens randomly, but is carefully organized within a divine cycle that leads to the fulfillment of God's plan for the redemption of the world. This concept of time, governed by cycles rather than a straight line, is key to understanding the nature of history and future events in the Book of Jubilees. The idea of cycles of time reflects a worldview where divine action plays a central role, not just in isolated moments, but throughout all human history. Each Jubilee cycle is a preparatory stage for the next, with every action within that time intrinsically connected to God's will. It presents a view where time is controlled by God and nothing escapes his plan. This notion of cyclical time also resonates in other apocryphal texts, such as the Apocalypse of Abraham, which presents a countdown to the final judgment and the destruction of evil. In the Apocalypse of Abraham, the concept of time is similarly portrayed as a sequence of prophetic events that indicate the end times are approaching. Just like the Book of Jubilees, the Apocalypse of Abraham offers a detailed vision of the events that will unfold until the moment of final judgment. This text describes a revelation given to Abraham, in which he sees the future of humanity and the last days that will lead to the defeat of evil and the restoration of divine order. The countdown in the Apocalypse of Abraham points to an imminent end, where divine intervention will be decisive for the transformation of the world and the separation of the just from the wicked. Moreover, just like in the Book of Jubilees, the Apocalypse of Abraham speaks of the coming of a redemptive Messiah who will restore cosmic harmony. This Messiah, central to the prophecies of both texts, is the one who will establish divine justice, eliminate evil, and restore order to the universe. The Messiah is the agent of transformation, the one who fulfills God's promises and brings about the salvation and peace of the chosen people. In the Book of Jubilees, he is seen as the figure who will gather all the tribes of Israel, bringing them salvation and peace. In the Sibylline oracles, this same Messiah figure is described as the one who will bring about the final judgment, but also restore cosmic harmony, bringing peace and prosperity to the righteous and destruction to the wicked. In both texts, Messiah is not only a figure of spiritual salvation, but also a cosmic restorer who will reverse the chaos and destruction caused by the forces of evil. The Messiah represents the hope that despite the suffering and corruption that permeate history, there will be a turning point, a moment when divine order will be restored and evil will be permanently defeated. The cyclical time in the Book of Jubilees and the countdown in the Apocalypse of Abraham remind us that the end times are inevitable, but also that there is a promise of redemption and restoration for those who remain faithful to God's plan. This apocalyptic view of time, in which the forces of good and evil are in constant confrontation, places the Messiah at the center of the cosmic drama. He is the point of convergence of all human history, the key to resolving the conflicts that define the fate of humanity. The Messiah's presence is the guarantee that, despite the corruption and fall of civilizations, there is a divine purpose that will be fulfilled, and the cycle of history will culminate in universal restoration. Therefore, the concept of time in the Book of Jubilees and the countdown in the Apocalypse of Abraham are essential elements for understanding the cosmic logic behind the final events. These texts teach us that time is governed by divine sovereignty, and the Jubilee cycles and apocalyptic revelations have a clear objective: the purification of the world and the coming of the Messiah, who will bring the ultimate victory over evil and restore cosmic harmony. History is not just a succession of random events, but a divine journey toward the fulfillment of an eternal plan that will unfold in due time, in harmony with God's will. The passage from Revelation 22, verse 12, carries a profound and universal message that resonates throughout the biblical tradition. Behold, I am coming soon. My reward is with me, and I will give to each person according to what they have done. This verse is not only a promise of the Messiah's return, but also a clear warning about the final judgment, where every human action will be evaluated with justice and precision. The theme of reward and divine justice is closely tied to the apocryphal texts as well as the canonical scriptures, illustrating that judgment is inevitable and absolute. In affirming that he will repay each person according to their deeds, the Messiah emphasizes that judgment will not just be an act of destruction, but also a reward for the righteous who remain faithful throughout history. In the apocryphal texts, such as the Book of Jubilees, we find a detailed vision of how human actions have both a spiritual and cosmic weight. The concept of divine judgment is widely discussed, with the idea that God governs time and human actions within a divinely ordained structure. The final judgment, in this context, is not an isolated event, but the culmination of a series of decisions made throughout history, reflecting the intentions of the human heart. This retribution is absolute and irrevocable, ensuring that God's justice will be fully revealed. Similarly, the Sibylline oracles speak of a world where God's judgment will mark the end of all corruption and divine justice will prevail, either in the form of restoration for the righteous or destruction for the wicked. The concept of divine justice and reward is also extensively explored in other biblical passages, such as in Matthew 16, verse 27, where Jesus says, "For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done." This statement directly echoes the idea that judgment is not just about retribution, but also about a cosmic act of justice that goes beyond individual punishment or reward, touching upon the entire order of the universe. This retribution, while focused on human actions, is also intrinsically tied to God's plan for the restoration of the cosmos, where divine harmony will be restored and evil will finally be eradicated. Thus, the final judgment is not an improvisation or a mere outcome for human history, but rather a planned process within a cosmic cycle where God's justice is manifested fully and irrevocably. The Messiah will be the one to bring restoration, not only to humanity, but to all of creation. His return is both a promise of redemption and a warning of justice, with those who have strayed from his path being confronted by divine retribution. In the apocryphal texts, this vision is expanded, showing how the final judgment will be a universal event, encompassing not only human beings, but all celestial and demonic forces that played a role in the history of mankind. Finally, the passage from Revelation 22, verse 12 also reminds us that the time for the final judgment is inescapable and absolute. The Messiah is coming soon, bringing with him the reward for those who have lived according to divine principles and justice for those who have turned away from the way of truth. The final judgment is not an isolated theme, but a foundational principle that runs through both the canonical scriptures and the apocryphal texts, pointing to God's sovereignty over history and the ultimate fate of humanity. Therefore, God's justice and retribution are a reality that will be fulfilled perfectly at the end of time, where, according to each person's actions, either redemption or destruction will be the inevitable consequence. When comparing these visions with other sacred texts, such as the Apocalypse of Peter and the Testament of Levi, we encounter a universal narrative where the conflict between light and darkness culminates in a moment of perfect judgment, where every human and celestial action will be evaluated. In the Testament of Levi, chapter 3, we find the promise of an eternal priest who will purify the temple and bring peace, reflecting the vision of ultimate harmony in the Sibylline oracles. In the Apocalypse of Peter and the other apocalyptic writings, the final judgment is described with vivid intensity, where the wicked are punished and the righteous are exalted, reflecting the cosmic drama between good and evil. This final scene affirms that all actions will be judged in the light of divine justice, and redemption will only be granted to the faithful. Likewise, the Testament of Levi delves into the idea that the divine judgment is not simply a matter of retribution, but also of cosmic restoration. In this text, the eternal priest, a messianic figure, purifies the temple, bringing peace and establishing divine harmony, mirroring the hope for restoration found in the Sibylline oracles. The priest, as described in the Testament of Levi, is not only a spiritual leader, but also a symbol of the cosmic restoration, where true divine harmony will be reestablished, not only in the temple, but throughout all creation. In other apocryphal writings, like the Apocalypse of Peter, the final judgment is marked by a dramatic cosmic reckoning, where the forces of light triumph over the forces of darkness. This idea resonates with the Testament of Levi, where the eternal priest acts as the instrument of purification and renewal for the world. Here, the priestly figure not only represents divine leadership, but also serves as the agent through whom God's plan of restoration unfolds. The judgment is thus portrayed as a restorative process, bringing an end to corruption and ushering in divine peace. This universal narrative of conflict and final judgment, found in texts such as the Apocalypse of Peter, the Testament of Levi, and the Sibylline oracles, reveals a common understanding across different apocalyptic traditions. The end of the world is not just an event of destruction, but a transformational process where the forces of evil are finally defeated and divine justice is fully manifested. the Sibylline oracles consistently express the promise that divine justice will triumph and evil will be eradicated, ushering in a time of peace and order. This aligns with the Testament of Levi, where the eternal priest brings purification to the temple and peace to the creation, and with the Apocalypse of Peter, where the final judgment is seen as a process of both punishment and purification. In these apocryphal writings, the central role of the messianic figure, whether as a priest, king, or divine agent, is critical to the final judgment and the restoration of the world. In the Apocalypse of Peter, the Messiah is the one who, upon returning, will judge humanity's actions and establish a reign of justice and peace. In the Testament of Levi, the messianic figure is embodied by the eternal priest, who purifies the temple and renews creation. The messianic figure in both cases is central to the theme of divine justice, but also to the ultimate restoration of the world. The judgment is not merely about punishment, but about cleansing and renewing the world in preparation for the new era of peace. Ultimately, this universal narrative found in the Apocalypse of Peter, the Testament of Levi, and the Sibylline oracles points to the divine intervention as the definitive action that will bring about justice, purification, and peace to the universe. In the end, the final judgment will not only be an event of destruction, but a moment of rebirth for the world and for the righteous. These texts share a common vision. The end of time will be a time not only of judgment, but also of restoration and renewal. Today, as we face global and spiritual challenges that seem vast and insurmountable, the ancient prophecies revealed in sacred and apocryphal texts continue to resonate deeply in our time. The forces that operated in the days of Noah, when the world was corrupted to its core, and during the time of the Tower of Babel, a symbol of human arrogance and the desire to rise above God, still manifest today in new and sophisticated ways, reflecting the ongoing cycles of rebellion and redemption. Humanity, just like in the past, continues to wrestle with the same dilemmas, consumed by pride and unchecked ambition, attempting to control what lies beyond its grasp. The rebellion against God's plan, much like the temptations that led to the fall and the flood, still echoes in the political, social, and spiritual decisions we make daily, not just as individuals, but as a global society. Yet, amid all this chaos and uncertainty, these ancient words of prophecy offer us a profound reflection and a timeless message of hope. The promise of a Messiah who would come to redeem humanity and the ultimate destruction of evil remain central themes in both canonical scriptures and apocryphal texts. These texts underscore the certainty that no matter how difficult the times may be, or how endless the struggle seems, divine victory is assured. As the Messiah is described in passages such as Isaiah 9 verse 6, where he is called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, the hope he brings is not just a promise of deliverance, but a guarantee that true justice and peace will prevail. Just as past generations were reminded of God's sovereignty, we too are invited to reflect on the certainty of divine triumph. The Messiah, with his promise of restoration, will come to finally vanquish evil, establishing God's eternal kingdom and bringing redemption to those who turn to him and to all creation. The forces of evil present during biblical events like the flood and the confusion of languages at the Tower of Babel have not disappeared. They continue to manifest, albeit in more concealed forms, often hidden within political systems, worldly ideologies, and practices that dishonor divine morality. Humanity's arrogance in opposing God, whether by attempting to build a tower to reach the heavens, or by living according to its own desires without regard for divine will, remains a struggle in this age of intense globalization and interconnectedness, where the thirst for power, control, and autonomy among certain groups seems ever growing. However, as we turn to prophetic words, particularly those that speak of redemption and the purification of the world, we are reminded that God's judgment on evil is inevitable, and that in the end, he will prevail. The messianic promises found in texts like the Sibylline oracles and other traditions affirm the certainty that no matter how daunting the challenges may seem, God's plan for restoration and redemption will come to fruition as promised. In this context, the spiritual battle we face extends beyond visible and tangible forces to include the spiritual structures operating behind the scenes of human history, shaping our decisions, choices, and actions. Yet, amid these struggles, divine victory draws near as a certainty that the Messiah will bring ultimate restoration. The final judgment, as described in the Sibylline oracles, the Book of Revelation, and various apocryphal texts, will not only be a moment of destruction, but also of purification and renewal. In a world that constantly bears the scars of human rebellion, the message of redemption remains an open invitation to all who turn to God, trusting that He is able to restore what has been lost and bring about a new order of justice and peace. In conclusion, while the battle between good and evil, between light and darkness, may feel relentless and overwhelming, divine victory remains certain. The Messiah, in His redemptive mission, continues to be the key to the ultimate transformation of the world, where evil will be destroyed and lasting peace will be established. The cycles of rebellion and redemption observed in ancient texts continue to play out before our very eyes, but the assurance of God's final triumph offers us the hope to endure, knowing that in the end, divine justice and restoration will prevail over all that is fleeting and corrupt. God's victory will be the triumph of good over evil, truth over deception, and life over death. If you want to explore more about the ancient mysteries and the hidden connections between these sacred texts, subscribe to the Portal of the Unknown. Together, we will uncover the shadows of the unknown and bring forgotten truths to light. With each discovery, a new layer of history will be revealed, allowing us to better understand the forces that have shaped the destiny of humanity and God's divine plan for the future. If you're ready for this journey, subscribe now and prepare to explore what lies beyond the surface within the texts and prophecies that reveal hidden secrets and guide us toward a deeper understanding of our existence and divine purpose.